Notes here.
Being an author doesn't have to be a secluded profession. With so many ways to reach out and stay in contact with folks, why not utilize that tech to make a mastermind group with other authors? James S. Aaron is here to dig deep on what exactly a mastermind group is and how to bring one together. James, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thank you. I'm really glad to be here.
Thanks for coming on. And there's your library behind you.
Oh, yeah. And that's, let's see, am I turning this the right way?
Yes, a tour.
I want that so bad.
The problem is this mic is like picking up all the junk that's on top of my bookshelves. So, I mean, this camera usually doesn't see it. So I look much more organized
and relatable. We can all relate to having junk on our bookshelves.
Yeah.
That's why I'm against a wall with a blanket.
Mm-hmm.
Need to see people's man caves. Well, today in the chat we have Jeffrey H. Haskell, we've got Rick Partlow and Unity from across the pond. Welcome, gents. Well, masterminds. It is what brings us together today.
Yes, exactly.
What is a mastermind? I've heard about them, but what are they exactly?
I have two of my friends here, Jeff and Rick, are checking up on me.
Yes.
Yeah. So when I first heard the term mastermind, I thought, like, what is this pretentious garbage? Like, why would I want to be part of that? Yeah, I know. Rick says the camera makes you look like a zebra. I know.
Zebra of light and darkness.
It was even worse before. And I didn't know what it was. And I had been part of I was fortunate in my area. I'm from Eugene, Oregon. And we had a group called the Wordos here, which has been around for more than 20 years at this point. And a lot of like award winners and science fiction writers that kind of came up in the Pacific Northwest would even travel to take part in, it was mostly a critique group. But one of the side effects of being a critique group is when you get a bunch of, science fiction, fantasy, speculative writers together, they start talking about the business, and then you've got a mix of people that, like, some people are not interested in business at all. Like, I'm just here to be an artist. I want to create whatever I'm going to do. And other people are like, no, I would like to sell what I make. And then you also hear stories about, when that, I don't want to get too off color here, but like I've got some friends that a condom company was offering, like they wanted science fiction novels that included condoms in their, had something to do with condoms in the story. And
yeah,
I know, and they paid for these novels. It's like a whole bunch of people in my previous writers group like wrote stories and sold them to Trojan for but you hear about these opportunities. And so I had never really thought, I'd always like kind of thought of, you hear about MFA programs, and that was the thing I thought about, like when I first graduated, and even when I got out of the Army, I was like, well, I want to be serious about being a writer. I guess, is that my only course, is to go be part of a Master of Fine Arts program? And then come to learn out that a lot of Master of Fine Arts programs don't even really focus on the business, and business is important to me. Like, obviously craft is important, but I also have a family to support. And so that's where this idea came in. And even the term mastermind, like when folks hear that, there's kind of two different things. And I think we should hopefully have time to talk about them. Mastermind, as the way I first, I don't know, people are always kind of mixing it up, but you'll often hear of like someone who is successful or has a system or is a James Patterson kind of person will have a group where people pay to be part of that group for a certain period of time, like 6 months to a year or something. And you have a cohort and you learn from that guru and you pay however much, it varies. I've heard different numbers quite often. But the idea is that you're learning from that person so that you can then take whatever they teach you and go off, and there might be accountability aspects. There could be, there are different like business groups that kind of do the same thing, which I think is more of, people might relate more to that, where if you're starting a business, your town might have a group of small business owners that come together. And that's kind of what I'm more interested in. So while we say mastermind, and I think that people have heard that quite often, I think of it more as a peer group or accountability group, and we come together to create a mastermind, right? And so there's a great book out there by Jay Thorne called Creating the Author Mastermind, and I'll give you the link, which kind of what got me thinking about this, because I had some other thoughts in my brain about a year ago about what's going to happen when Facebook goes away. Because here's another thing. Like I've realized across the course of my career that most of my publication has actually come through networking as opposed to just like cold sending, stories places. And yeah, I mean, and it is
all the network.
It is what it is, you know. But like when I was able to join the Wordos and I started getting more publication, because I learned how to submit. You know, I learned from other writers who had been submitting, and then when I was fortunate to, you know, I found the K-Boards forums that were online when I started looking at ebook publishing, and then that became 20 books to 50K, and then 20 books kind of broke out into other smaller groups. Like, you know, essentially Keystroke is a mastermind. It's just very kind of loose, and people are able to participate, and you kind of draw in like-minded individuals that share information at different times. But what I wanted to do was something that was like much kind of tighter knit and be part of a group that are there to support each other and provide knowledge to each other. And yeah, so I did that a year. I guess it's been about a year and a half, I think, at this point, which has been kind of a successful group. And that's, I don't know, I feel like I'm going around in circles here, but that's what
you're doing
Yeah.
that's kind of what led me to where I am now. Like thinking about, okay, if Facebook has been the major thing that has been for networking for me since like 2016, what happens when Facebook goes away? And so I looked at these different ideas of mastermind groups or author accountability groups I've been part of, and I wanted to create that off of Facebook. And there are different, like I know folks are doing like using Discord for this, or like whatever platform enables that. It's just a matter of whatever works for the authors that are there. Like right now, the group that I'm in now, we're using Slack, which works pretty well for us, but Slack is also kind of expensive. And so we've talked about like what that might look like in the future. And even if Slack changes, because I mean, if as a writer, you haven't kind of figured out anything across the last few years, it's that everything changes continuously. And so, yeah. And so that's one nice thing about having a group of people that you have a connection with, is that also what's important is the core of people. It's not how you communicate or what you use, you know. So if Facebook goes away, maybe I'll find out about the new thing, or somebody else will find out about the new thing, and then we can share it with the group. And so we're kind of creating that mastermind, you know, going forward. So I guess to be clear, just there's kind of two separate things. And the thing that I really want to encourage people to do is the accountability peer group, as opposed to the mastermind I pay a guru group. Not to say that can't be useful. I know some folks that, you know, if you're working a day job and you kind of have more money than time, and you would like someone to help you shortcut some stuff, that can be useful. So I'm not going to say that it's terrible. I just haven't met that many folks that have done that and really felt like they got their money's worth, I guess. But I'm very much about like, go find like-minded people and work with them, and you will create something awesome together. So that's what I kind of wanted to talk about today when I proposed the subject. So
that's cool. So
yeah.
The potential is out there to find like a list of authors, like maybe Neil Gaiman or something, who are doing like a once a month thing with a select group of people, and you could actually like be in a group with Neil Gaiman or whoever it is that's out there potentially. But then this is another kind of group that you're saying you are peers, you are compatriots, you're checking in on each other, you're encouraging each other, you're keeping each other focused.
Yes.
That's cool. Yeah, that is the sort of thing that we were hoping, you know, to kind of dig deep in on today with the mastermind group. And
it also gets to like talking about networking. Like if as a writer, you kind of think like, well, networking isn't important to me, or I'm an introvert, I don't enjoy networking. I don't particularly enjoy I enjoy networking. I love talking to people. I am not good at being the first person to make that interaction, you know, like if you're at a conference or something. Yeah. Like I feel like I need like a pretty specific context to be really good at it. But
yes.
Yeah. But I found that these kind of things are really helpful, because also you could potentially have somebody in your group who is a super extrovert and can help you with that stuff. So I don't know, say, you know, you're a writer, you don't feel like you have a peer group. Why do I need a peer group? I can't really, you know, totally sell somebody on why you need a peer group, except that my recommendation would be find a peer group. Like whether it's trying to, you know, improve your craft, like figuring out like, what does a short story look like? Or what does, you know, I love to write. What should I do with that? Should I go find, you know, it's kind of like, depending on what your religion is, like go worship with others, you know, because you'll have a better experience of your spirituality. Well, I think writing is kind of can be the same way. Like I enjoy writing more when I do it with other people. I don't know why it is necessarily. I've never been super alone about it. And when I do it, when I write alone. I want to go then read it to someone or share it with someone. And for me, that's very basic about the act of telling a story. For me, it is kind of it becomes a social thing. But then creating it. So if you're writing and you don't know about how, like, should I find a group? I would recommend trying to do that. Someone might, I have definitely known other people that just wanted to write alone and not be part of another group or anything. And the only thing they do is interact with their readers. And that's fine if that's what really, I don't know, helps you grow in your craft. But for me, I would recommend finding other writers. I will say that sometimes, like, definitely be like, protect yourself if you have writers that are not helping you. Like if people are bringing negative energy to your what you want to do, but that's part of like kind of selecting the group that you work with. One of the things, like when I was first going to the like Wordo's meetings and other writers groups in my area, is I tried to be really clear to myself about not committing immediately to the group. Like there's something about, like, especially, not to say I'm like the greatest writer in the world, but if you show up and you can write, like, people want to interact with other people that write at least somewhat well, right? And so they might not want to let you go when you come into the group. So don't be, just kind of give it a minute. I'll commit to 3 meetings or whatever. I'll commit to a critique with you, so you can get a sense of what the group is. Like, are you going to learn from these other writers? Are they going to help you improve in your craft, or marketing, or whatever it is that you want to learn to get better at? And then if it's not working, don't stick around. Don't be afraid to cut and go do something else. Because one thing I found is there's no shortage of other writers to potentially work with. So that would be more for like a local kind of thing. Go ahead.
You're definitely touching on one of the questions that I really wanted to get to was, how do you know if this mastermind group is even worth your time? And that is a really great way to sort of like, you need to put up some parameters. You can't just like give it all, especially if you don't know any of the people, or one friend that you may have had is just like, hey, I'm in this group, I love it, I want you to come join us. We talk all things, development, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But if you're not feeling that connection or getting what you want out of it, then don't feel bad to let it go. It's okay. And you can have multiple. You can have all the groups. Sorry,
and the group I'm in, well, and it's because I'm in like I am in, now that we're in Zoom land for the most part, like I'm in a couple other groups that only meet, like, say, once a month. And you can definitely feel like when you're not quite on the same wavelength as the other writers, or they're trying to do something different than you are. And then thinking about, like, what is your goal do you want to get out of this? I think is really important. But that would be more, I think, like, you're right, Kalene, if you were joining an existing group or somebody was inviting you, like, I think don't be afraid to really have those boundaries up. This group that I'm in now, we were fortunate to kind of bring the group together. And so we approached other writers that were interested and said, hey, we're thinking about doing this thing. Would you like to be part of it? And tried to be really clear about no obligation, no anything. If it works, great. If not, because I think there are some definite things to think about. And so I have my handy list here, so I won't hopefully forget anything.
I love lists.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking too. Lists, we love lists.
So I think if we've kind of thought, like, why you would want to potentially join a group of authors, and we call it, like, just to differentiate between mastermind and kind of a guru group, like, but how many people would you like to have be part of it? This is some things that Jay Thorne's book goes into, like, max number of people. I think what we've kind of discovered is just based on, like, doing updates on a Zoom call. Like, if you try to keep it down to 2 hours, like, and we do weekly check-in calls, which I think is important. It's good to be able to see people's faces and interact with them and have conversation. And for us right now, that's 9 people, which is pretty much a max of what you can get through, because not everybody can be there every week as well. But any more than that, I think you get into some difficulty with just being able to meet and talk, and which is difficult because you always kind of want to add more people, right? It would be great to have more people in the group. Similar genres and similar ideas about genre, or at least tropes within genre, I think has been important for, like, and that gets to, like, what I wanted to accomplish out of, like, interacting with other writers. Like, I wanted to learn from them, but I wanted to learn, like, it doesn't help if if you're a mystery writer and I'm a science fiction writer, like, we can talk about some things, but, like, really getting into that, like, nitty gritty of what we're trying to accomplish, and also like where we're trying to sell. If I guess that gets
Totally
another thing on my list here,
changes.
but yeah, totally changes. And then is selling even important? Like if someone is not a commercial writer or not even really focused on selling their work, or also they really want to like they're really focused on, say, perfection in their work. Not that perfection isn't a good goal, but we all know it's the enemy of getting anything done, right? So it can be difficult to really give each other meaningful feedback or even kind of connect in a way. I don't know. I whenever you have that conversation about like how fast do you publish, like that seems to separate people pretty quickly.
Oh no.
You know, but that I think is important. Like think about that, and also like where are you in your career, as far as like how. And even I think if someone is like, say you're in a local writers group that is really focused on writing or maybe submitting just short stories. Like I'm coming from a science fiction background, so it's all about when I was first coming up, like, you know, submit to the group, get feedback, submit to magazines, get rejected, like over and over and over again until, you know, submit to Writers of the Future, get rejected, and then hopefully get an agent. And that all kind of changed when, you know, I discovered Kindle and ebooks, and I started talking about that in my group. And I really quickly discovered people that were like, yeah, I don't want that. I don't like that. And I was like, well, I want to find readers. I want to please readers, not please editors, you know? Not that
And thus you parted.
I know.
Had to find new people.
And so that, you know, definitely there's, since I'm speaking to two editors, I do want
we get it.
I do want to please you, but I mean, like when it comes to like trying to get into something as opposed to building an audience. And so
yeah.
I think
that's what I'm about, man. I want the author's words to please the readers so they sell more books, and then want to use me again for the next book.
Absolutely. Well, I think you become really aware of what the readers are looking for as well, as opposed to, you know, building a tone of a magazine or something, which is a different kind of project, I guess. But anyway, finding people that are on that same wavelength. And whereas we were like approaching people and asking them to join the group, I think if you were going to a group to see if it was a good fit, those would be some things to think about. You know, are these people maybe like, you know, if we think about like your career as a spectrum or whatever, you know, where are they at in the process of their career, you know, and are you going to learn from them? Do you want people to push on your work or push on your marketing ideas, or where your concepts about, you know, just being an artist, a working artist or whatever. Some people don't want that. They just want to go and get positive reinforcement and, yep, all your ideas are awesome. Well, that's not exactly what I want.
Everything is awesome.
I know. I kind of want people who are going to push on me and help me grow and tell me when, yeah, I don't know if that's a good idea or not, James, don't do that. Or here's what might happen if you do that, you know, and okay, thank you. So those are things to think about. You know, what are your one thing we were trying to be really clear about was identifying goals, and then do we have folks who are going to work to help people accomplish those goals? Like I kind of always have in the back of my mind what my friends in the group are trying to accomplish, and if there's something that I can assist with, I will do that. You know, it's not super difficult for me, but I think honestly, that's a really important thing. Yeah, go ahead.
That is a hugely great point, because I have goals, and you know, 90% of those goals, like, even though it seems so simple, I don't even know where to start. I wouldn't even know how to begin. And they're like, well, do this. And I'm like, how do I do that though? Like, it seems that, but like, there's just certain things that, you know, I'm great at certain things. I'm not great at others. And to be a part of a group where that person kind of fill in the blank could make all that angst go away.
Well, I think even to have people who are on the same wavelength, like if you're, I really want to do this thing. Well, hey, I did that and this is how I did it. Maybe you could do it like X, Y, and Z, or this is what I learned, or even just I'm having I have a really hard time just saying like, I'm having a hard time with this. This is difficult for me. I'm having a hard week or something like that. And so I'm really lucky that the folks in my group are good at like, well, hey, let's talk about what's going on. Tell us about it. Break it down. Like they're all pretty, I would say, process oriented, which also helps me because I'm very process oriented. And then sometimes it's just like, you know, hey man, you have a toddler and you know, there's a pandemic going on. So it's hard. You know, like be good to yourself. Like, oh, okay, you're right. I should do that. But I think that because everybody is kind of in the same, or like, hey, James, you've been talking about this for 2 weeks, and maybe it's time to just shut up and do the work you need to do. That can be helpful. So I think, yeah, I know. But thinking about those things, like how does that, and that all kind of gets to another thing I had on my list, which is sort of this nebulous concept of fit. But are you all someone on the same wavelength? Can you speak honestly to each other? If there are things that you disagree about, can you approach that disagreement in a way where at least you'll listen to each other? And even if you're on different wavelengths, be it politically or, culturally or whatever, like, can we come together and focus? And those are really important things. Like, I don't like being in an echo chamber. I would prefer to be able to express an idea that if somebody disagrees with me, well, at least let's talk about it,
Yeah.
and I think it can be difficult depending on what, where people are coming from, but definitely things to think about when you go into looking for a group or looking for people to join your group. What else do I have? If you were creating the group, like, what is your core reason for creating the group? Is it synergy? Is it collaboration? Shared resources? It could just be friendship. Like, it can be a very solitary career. I was talking about, people that might not want to be around other people. Well, some people, like, I would like to be around other people, but this is a job where I sit by myself all the time. So a group like this can be very helpful for that. Let's see. I'm actually going through a list that my friend Lisa Richmond helped me with. So I'm trying to make sure I'm touching everything. I know.
And Julie in the Keystroke Medium, she's like so excited for this one. And we do have questions we can get to. First, Bart of today, he asked, how do you find these groups locally or online?
Yeah. Meetup.com is still a good, like, it's kind of an archaic website, but it's still a good source of either looking for these kind of things or posting. But I would, again, be just careful because I've met some real characters through meetup.com. So if you're going to do something like that, like, always make sure you're meeting in a potentially public place, or even, now with COVID, like doing a Zoom meeting of some kind. At least the critique groups I was part of have all gone to Zoom at this point. So you can log into Zoom, see if you're on the same wavelength with folks. And then if it doesn't work out, just, peace out. Other things can be events. Like, as I've been thinking about, okay, like, the one good thing Facebook is really good at is helping you see, like, expanded networks of people. And so if you and I are friends, and then Facebook immediately is trying to get me to friend Kalene as well, like, that's part of how Facebook works, right? But if you don't have that, author events, readings, things in your genre, like cons can actually be like, if you had nothing else to go somewhere where there are going to be people who are like-minded, a con can be a great place to do that. And then not being afraid to ask other writers, like, who do you interact with? Like, if you went to a reading with a local author or something, and you have that, like, little Q&A at the end, or a time to go talk to the writer or another writer, like, just asking them about it. My area has, like, no shortage of writers groups. So, and I'm not in an incredibly urban area, but I think if you were in an area that's, like, really, like, you're out in the country, or, something like that, or you work odd hours, other online communities can be good. And I think while Facebook exists, like, Facebook is a good place to do that. But then there are other, like one thing with Baen Publishing, their Baen's Bar was a place where they like, writers would come together. Different websites, the comments on the on things are actually a place where I've seen people, like, interact and start, groups. Reddit.com has, different critique groups actually that have kind of come out of that. I think it's harder with something like that to find it if you're on the same wavelength with somebody, but it is a place where you can find other writers who are focusing on what you're interested in. And so I would look places like that, and just not be afraid to ask a writer, where do you have a group? Who do you talk to? Would you recommend it? That kind of thing. And kind of go from there. Like, just don't be afraid to ask people. That's kind of how I started, and I think when I first found the Wordos, I just Googled it, and I was lucky that, like, oh, I have a local writers group. So I went and, and what I found was, like, once you find one group, you'll find, like, there's all these other little groups that have, like, probably split off or, join their own thing, and then you can go check them out. Or other people in the group would form their own group, and then they would ask you if you wanted to come critique with them or do something like that. And so I would go check that out. So
yeah, the local
And
ones are great
Josh
for after the
Hayes in
pen.
the
Oh. Go ahead, Kalene.
Oh, I'm probably behind you guys a little bit because I keep talking over you. But I was just going to say really quick, Josh Hayes in the chat is touching on what I was going to say.
yes.
Keystroke Medium Facebook group is a great place to start. We also do have a Discord. So go bug Josh about that because I am not savvy with the Discord yet to know how to even do that. But it's there for those who know. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, you could just post romance writers, let's make a group, or newbie writers, let's make a group. Anything you want, just put it in the Keystroke Medium group. We'd love to see it. But yeah, if you find those local groups that, after the pandemic you can meet up with and talk, that's great. But with everyone still somewhat forced to be online, you could be in California and you could be meeting with a group of authors in Brooklyn. And location doesn't really matter. Distance doesn't really matter at this point. So, now's kind of the optimal time to find people from all over the world and make those connections, because distance is nebulous right now, for now.
And I would say one thing is, don't be afraid to be really upfront about what, like, I write military science fiction. I write primarily for the Kindle Unlimited market. I kind of need specific things from the people that I interact with, like specific feedback. Like if somebody's going to give me, feedback about something, like covers are a great lightning rod, like if they so just don't be like, and that kind of gets to, I think, even being able to articulate that says like where a person is in their career a little bit. So if you already know that, like, you might want to be looking for maybe that critique group that's going to have a higher level of help for you, or accountability group or author group, and that's also where it gets to the mastermind stuff, I guess, is finding a group of people that are just like-minded that way. And so you may have to go online more for that. And that's where, I think Keystroke is a really great place to look for that. In fact, Keystroke might be, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, like the only like group that would really, if I was going to even recommend to someone that's looking for specific things like that, Keystroke is the place, I think.
Oh, well, 20 books. Yeah, if you could do a post, 30,000 people right there, you're bound to find at least 8 others to be part of your fellowship.
I know.
Mayor asks, oh, go ahead.
Just before we leave 20 books, 20 books is so huge that I think it's really easy to get lost in that right now. So, but it's still, there's a bunch of like surface info that's good. So yeah, sorry, let me distract you. Go ahead.
No, that's good. And you can search topics in the 20 Big Books group and find exactly what you need. Now, Mara asked specifically, I wonder how to find people focused on pre-writing. So
we've all been talking about the app Plotter, which I owe my obsession to that to Jeff Haskell, but they actually have a really good Facebook group. And so that again gets to where, like, there's a thing I like, which kind of draws people that are like-minded. And so like check out, it's a PLOTTR. I think if you just search on Facebook for that, that's a group of people who are just focused on plotting. And so they're really just like, yes, they're using that particular app, but they're asking a lot of questions, I think, that shows they've thought deeply about pre-writing and plotting and, that kind of pre-work development. So that's a good place to be. And I would actually probably join a group like that, get a sense of how they operate. And then if it's cool to say, like, hey, where do other people, what other resources do you have or are you part of that I could go check out, then people will typically, give you some help. That's like the only thing I think is good about social media is like you can ask a question and typically people will jump in and help you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mayor also points out that Absolute Right might also be good as a general place to find writers.
Oh, I haven't checked that one out. I'll take a look at it.
And we've got 2 tiers for The Art of War by Stephen Pressfield.
I was going to say, is it The Art of War or The War of Art?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Two good books.
The Sun Tzu and
I know.
Two very different books.
Yeah, I know. The War of Art's one of my favorite.
Join our group.
Yeah. It's like a locker room speech for, you're going into the big game and you just got, is it Stephen Pressfield that actually reads it, or I get it, he's got a narrative, but it's just so like, right, you must write. I don't know.
Ooh. Well, we have way more questions, but first, can we have a reading from Kalene?
Oh.
Alrighty, and today, the spotlight brings you Galactic Law Box Set, the complete series by J.N. Chaney and James S. Aaron. Little rolly down. Okay. Lethal force is authorized. In the wild space of the Deadlands, Taurus Station is where miners and tourists come to play, and the Ravager gangs follow close behind. Out here, far from the civilized world, the law has a name. Gage Walker is the son of a hard-nosed asteroid miner. Brash, rough, and crude, he's one of the few deputies working the station. Okay, that was weird. He's one of the few deputies working the station. There we go, that's better. Still a rookie, Walker is tasked with the security of a mining...
Magnate.
Magnate, thank you. Should have read this beforehand. Still a rookie, cool. Walker is tasked with the security of a mining magnate's daughter. An easy job that quickly takes a turn for the worse. The Ravager gangs want her, and it falls to Walker to find out why. In a chase across Taurus Station, Deputy Walker must prove he's fit to wear the badge, and issues his own form of justice, one body at a time. Experience this exciting new series set in the Renegade Star universe. If you're a fan of Judge Dredd, Renegade Star, or Borderlands, you'll love this epic sci-fi thriller. Click buy now or doom. Wow, that was rough. I'm so
surprised
sorry.
I remember it. No worries.
It is too early for this.
I wrote that like a year and a half ago, so I'm surprised I remember.
More coffee.
I
know. I've only been. I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning, so this is. My brain's just like, you want me to what?
Yeah, we've had the box set out for, I don't know, like 4 months now. It came out in January, and it's been doing very well. So if you like Scott's The Reaper series, Galactic Law is set in the same universe as Renegade Star and The Reaper and all that good stuff. Yeah.
All right, so now I understand what a mastermind group is, and I understand that social media is a great way to find one, or just Googling it. But how exactly are they run? Like, what does their schedule look like? Or what does an hour-long session or a 2-hour-long session look like? Do they meet once a week or once a month? Or how is it all set up?
Yeah, so we try to be really focused on just being actionable. And it has varied week to week, depending on what it is. But the kind of overall composure of the group is it's a Slack channel. So if you're used to Slack or Discord, like you basically have it's a separate app where you folks can log in. It's a secure app. And then the idea is that only people that are invited are able to even get into that chat room. And then there are different channels within the chat. And so we basically have like a general chat where you can just have whatever conversation you want to have, and that's ongoing. And then we have basically each kind of area, and members can, this is one thing, like I guess when we initially started, like I was the leader, but it's not my goal to be like the king of the mastermind group. Like I want it to be a collaborative effort. I don't want any, like even when issues come up or things need to be decided, I want to do it as a group by consensus as much as possible. So anybody can make a channel. If something occurs to them that they're like, hey, this would be a cool thing to discuss over time, they can make a channel. And then the idea is that conversations can happen within those channels around different things that are important to us. And so they're really all focused on writing. And we try to keep, like, this group is about writing and the business of writing for the most part. We have like a general feedback channel, which would be about some craft questions if folks have that. But then there's like a marketing channel, we have a channel for just the meeting questions, and we do meet once a week, which I think is plenty. Like I don't necessarily think a group needs to meet more than that, but we have a channel called The Office where we've done at different times. Like when the pandemic first started, we were actually kind of logging in and just doing Zoom kind of write-ins, which is another type of group that I didn't really get into. That my area has a bunch of these happening, where basically people with Zoom accounts are hosting these kind of shared write-in sessions where people will kind of follow the Pomodoro method, where they'll, write for 20 minutes, and then you do have a leader there who stops it, 10 minutes to socialize, and then, another 20 minutes of writing. And so we've done that before. Sometimes that channel is just people checking in to say, hey, I'm writing right now, anybody else? And then we kind of spur each other on with word counts and things like that. We had a channel, like several people were taking Mark Dawson's course. So we have a channel where we were just talking about that and discussing ideas from the course and what we thought worked and didn't work and things like that. And so each of them is for that. And then the idea is that if someone has a question, they can jump in. And the nice thing about Slack is, you can adjust the level of notifications so it doesn't bother you too much. And then you can, assist each other as things go on. And then if you have a question that might warrant more discussion, we have a channel specifically for the meetings where people will list like things we want to talk about in the meeting, and then do that once a week. I would say the other thing, like when I was talking about only having 9 people in the group, that's the other thing that gets really difficult if you have too many people, is just scheduling, trying to find a time that works. And actually, I'm really feeling it right now because I've had to miss a couple of meetings because my work schedule has changed, and I hate it. But I don't want to ask 8 other people to change their schedule for me. But that's the thing to work around. And so that's kind of the general like shape of the Slack group. Now you could do the same thing in Discord. I find Discord a little more distracting because I don't like having the list of servers, and I really need to dig into Discord more because I'm sure there must be a way to be able to hide servers. Like I know you can mute them, but just being able to see them kind of bugs me. Like with Slack, I like that it only shows you the workspace you're in at the time that you're in it. I have to think to go look at another workspace if I want to, because I'm a member of a bunch of different Slack workspaces, but I have to choose to go look at them. Whereas I think Discord just gives you notifications. But anyway, so it's a similar kind of thing. And if Slack goes away tomorrow, like if we needed to take that same format and go over to another platform, like it'd be pretty easy to do that. Like it's basically just the forum kind of format where if you had, a website with different sections of a forum, and then, you go into each one to talk about it. Slack makes it easy to share files and upload photos and things like that. So like say I'm working on a book cover, it's very easy to upload the cover and then get feedback on that, or upload a blurb and get feedback. Things like that. It's easy to post links. The other thing Slack currently has, and this is the only thing that's kind of making us consider moving away from Slack, is it kind of becomes nagware after a certain point because it only saves, I think, up to 10,000 total messages. But I actually think this is a good thing. Like there are certain things we'd like to keep. Like I think the marketing discussions, the like blurb discussions, things like that. But then other discussions, it's fine if they go away after a certain point. Like we don't need a historical record of everything that we were kind of upset about at this given time, right? Which I guess speaks, we do have a rants channel where if something is frustrating you, like I was very angry at TurboTax last week. That was a place where I could just bang on my keyboard, and so that's a good thing to have. And so that format you could pretty much take to any kind of platform. And then for the week, so we choose to meet weekly. And we did have a discussion about that, like how often we thought we should meet, like should it be weekly, should it be bi-weekly? And weekly does work pretty well, I think, especially because not everybody always has something each week to talk about. But the format currently, and it could always change, but do a check-in from each author, and each person has, like, that's where it gets to how many people you have. We try to keep the meetings under 2 hours, which seems like a lot of time, but it goes fast. Like,
it goes so fast.
I was really like, when we first started, I was really like, even when I was pitching the group, I'm like, I want to keep this under an hour. I don't want to waste anybody's time. We're here about solving problems. And that's kind of like, we're definitely there about solving problems, but it's also just cool to be able to talk with your friends for 2 hours, to have something that happens every week. Because one of the things I've learned, especially like, writing full time, is that like time just goes away. And it feels like every time, either Wednesday morning or Tuesday, like I am the person that typically post the links to Zoom that we use. And inevitably it's like, what? Where'd the week go? Like, what just happened? So we do check-ins, and we do a rotating like list of like this week it could be Kalene who's in charge of kind of monitoring time. Next week it could be Lauren. And that's just because if you do have somebody who's like really excited about a project, or some folks just talk more than others. It's just how it is, and so kind of keeping on track with the time, making sure that, the meeting kind of keeps moving if you need to. And then some people, like I'm not always like divulging all, like, not to say that I like purposely don't divulge information, but it's helpful sometimes if someone asks you questions about like the problem you're having, while you're talking about it. And so the group leaders kind of, as we rotate, they kind of do that just to help suss out, I guess, how we can help best, So that would be like, we go through check-ins. That usually gets up to about an hour and 15 minutes. And then we would get into, if there was a topic someone wanted to discuss, and we spend 45 minutes talking about that. And so that could be a rotating thing, like, the new Amazon Vela. What do we think about that? What are we going to use that for? Is it like Wattpad? Some marketing thing, like, is it worth it to take this course? Like that would be the kind of stuff that we talk about. Just whatever is kind of worrying someone, or if they want help with, or, whatever. And that typically, I find that we don't have a problem filling that time. So yeah. And so that works pretty well. And at first we thought, like, well, are people going to be kind of clamoring for stuff to talk about? Are we going to have too many things? And it seems to have kind of like settled itself out, I think. And that's where having that channel to kind of pre-discuss the meeting helps a lot, because then people can see like, okay, I had asked about this thing, but honestly, it's not as important as that thing that Kalene wants to talk about. And I'd like to know what that's about as well. So let's talk about that, And so that's kind of the format. We use Zoom. Like, there are other things out there that you could use. Zoom is currently like, I think, 100 some bucks a year for all you can eat Zoom, and that's pretty good. Slack is expensive. Yeah, but Slack is crazy. Like, they want something like, now they're hitting us with the nag where if you pay up front for a year, it's like $6 per person per month. So it can just add up pretty quickly. So I don't know, Discord may become, but like a couple of us are, I'm included, I just don't really like Discord. So I don't know, but that's actually hurt me. Like, I need to fix that, because a lot of author stuff is happening on Discord. Like the KSM group, I really should spend more time there, but honestly, I don't think about Discord much. Aeon 14, the stuff I do with MD Cooper, like, we have a really active Discord group, and I don't spend enough time there. So I need to be looking at that. But yeah, that's kind of go ahead.
I was going to say, like, Discord in and of itself, I need to dig in and figure out, like, because, okay, so I joined the Aethon Discord today, and I can't stand when my phone bleeps at me. It's just blinking with its little lights and having 10,000 notifications. And I swear to God, Aethon Discord is like, I need to figure out how to, because all day I have been deleting things. Anyway, but I can see the appeal if I can figure out how to get it to work for me. Because that's one of my biggest hangups is I want to be a part of these groups. I want to pick the brains of other people and have people pick my brain, things that I can offer. But I am terrible at talking to people, just like physically, like going into the thing and being like, hey, the stuff, and then chatting. Like, that's actually really hard for me to do. People probably don't realize that, but that's like a hard, like, I will spend an hour drafting like a post or a comment and then delete it, and it will never be posted because it's so weird. I don't know, but
maybe that's why your feedback's so valuable, Kalene, when I get it, is because you thought so hard about it.
Right. Well, and that gets to one thing I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss, which is trust. It is absolutely imperative that the group has trust. And one thing I think maybe I didn't emphasize enough, and that might be the difference between, say, a public group on Facebook or something and the kind of group we're talking about here, is this is a group, a group of people that you trust, that you have their backs, that they might say something in the moment that they don't have the freedom to say elsewhere. And that is a good outlet. I think it's a very important outlet for people to have, to be able to have, even if I say something and somebody's like, yeah, I mean, you probably were wrong in that situation or whatever, maybe I'm wrong plenty, but at least I had the opportunity to vent about it, and also just that's not going to go outside the group is so important. One of the things I can't remember where I read it recently, but true friendship is forged through shared vulnerability. And that's one of the reasons we have so many friends from like military experience or school experience, because when you experience something where you are vulnerable, you're broken down, you're struggling, and you have people you experience that struggle with, those are friendships that will last, your life really in this day and age. And so I think that's one thing that's very important to go into the group with, and I'm not saying you have to do an NDA or something, but a non-disclosure agreement. If folks aren't interested in that, I don't know what that is, but there could very well be a group that asks you to sign an NDA, and I would actually not be opposed to that. I think realistically, I can't do anything if somebody chooses to talk about, something I vented about, but the fact is that would destroy the group if someone did that. So I think it's very important to remember that, to keep people in mind. It's also important that if you say something in the group that you really like, I need to keep this in the group, don't be afraid to repeat that. Like, hey, when I said that, like, I really need to keep that in the group, because honestly, when people get talking and they're talking about so many different things, it's hard to remember what was said in confidence and what wasn't. So that can be very important. And just if it's in the rant channel, like, it stays in the rant channel. Don't take it outside the rant channel. So that's just something to keep in mind. I think when you're working with folks, just remember that you are taking their best interest to heart. And even if they say something out in the world that you disagree with, like, I'm still there to have their back, and I'm not going to do something that will, I'm not there to like nuke their career or anything like that. I'm there to help them. And that's why we're in this group together. I think that's just important to remember, as if you find yourself in a group where you feel like, yeah, I don't have a good feeling about this for whatever reason. Again, that gets to, don't be afraid to go do something else or start your own group or whatever. So I don't know, I wanted to emphasize that because I think that's incredibly important, and with the level of group that we're talking about, because I just think there are kind of different levels of trust and different levels of, privacy when you look at things like this. So.
Yeah, I had another question about time management. I'm in a number of groups, and I know that throughout every day, I'm checking in on those groups. Throughout the week, I'm checking in on those groups. And when you add up all that time, that's a whole lot of time.
Yeah.
Right. And then as a writer, kind of every spare minute or every free minute to really focus on your writing is kind of precious. So how do you recommend getting the most out of your time?
Yeah, honestly, this is one reason I wanted to have a core group like this as well, because I don't have time to go. Like, I love 20 books, and I'm an admin for 20 books, so I really love what they do. I support it, but it's very difficult to get information from, like, trying to search it and sort through sift through everything. That's kind of one reason I wanted to have this. It's like you've got this core of people who are also helping you filter information and determine what's important. And these are the people that I want to spend time with. Like, I guess for me personally, I would rather have strong connections to a smaller group of people than shallow connections with a lot of people. But then I'm also maybe not the best model for that, because I'm not good at marketing. Like, one thing, Mal Cooper is so good at marketing and so good at being on, attracting just awesome people to Aeon 14. And I've had to kind of acknowledge that I'm not as good at that. I would much rather have like smaller, deeper relationships, and so for me, that's how I manage my time, is I don't check those other things.
Yeah.
But like you heard me say, I didn't even know I'm an Aethon author, and I didn't know Aethon had a Discord group. So
I just found out today. So
I know I need to go figure that out. I do try to, like, for my marketing things, like, I try to interact as much as I can in the Renegade Readers group for variant publications. And Aethon has an ARC group on Facebook that I try to interact there. Places where it matters to me, that's where I try to spend time. At least it matters to, like, readers, I guess, is where I try to spend time. But then otherwise, the group is like I've actually turned off all the notifications on my phone, Kalene, because I can't deal with my phone.
I haven't figured out how to turn Discord off yet. So, like, everything else is off, but
no, I don't have Discord on my phone because of that, so I got to dig into it again. But I guess that would be part of the time, managing time. And then also, like, if I'm having a problem with time management, that's something I'll ask the group. Like, that's why we've done kind of these shared sprint sessions, and what are some strategies that they use to manage their time. Because, I'm very fortunate to have a group of very high output individuals, and so they all have that same sort of challenge that they're working with. And a lot of people, like, writing is not the only thing they're doing, or everybody's got family commitments and everything else. So, I guess our struggles are very similar, and I really appreciate that. And so it helps me a lot.
So a lot of what we've been talking about for me boils down to, there's more than just joining a group. you can be in 10, 20, 30 groups. I mean, if you can manage that, but you have like this core group of people, like, me, Lauren, and Ellen, we have like our little chat that we do, like we support each other. We have a problem, that is like kind of a minuscule mastermind group as far as what you've been talking about. We'll, read something in editing, I go to them. If I can't find it anywhere else, I'm like, hey, what is this thing? I can't figure it out. And they don't judge, they just do. And same thing for them. They have a question. If I have input, I'll give it. And like Keystroke, like I owe everything to Keystroke, honestly. Like that's my core right there, is my Keystroke family. And from Keystroke is where all of these other spider vines and tree limbs have grown. And so for me, like the idea of like these mastermind groups is the pockets of areas where you can go and locate the information you want or looking for, problems that you might have, you can go to this group, that's where you can get your marketing, da 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 da. So and then it creates this web of a whole, and I love that.
I think and that's where like I'm kind of thinking about like different levels, I guess. And if you and if you and Ellen were to, like, say you were to do a weekly check, like in some ways it feels like we've almost created a shared office where we have weekly check-in meet, like the same kind of thing you would do at work, right? We have shared check-in meetings. People share what they're working on, what they're up to. In a way, it's kind of accountability. Like I would do the same thing at the day job. Like, these are my priorities. This is what I've worked on this week. This is what I accomplished. These are my challenges. This is what I need help with. This is what I just want to, be angry about. But you're doing that in a way, you're sharing in each other's sort of struggle there. But I think you're learning, like, okay, so-and-so is at a place in their career I would really like to be 5 years from now. This is what their level of work looks like. This is what they are producing on a daily basis. I need to figure out how to get there. And also, I can't be afraid to ask or whatever. Or maybe, someone else is kind of in the same place in life that I am, like toddlers, pandemic, whatever. And so I don't feel so bad about where I'm at, because if I didn't get something done, because I realize it's not, I don't know, but there's a level of, like, I guess, awareness of what everybody else is working on that's kind of different than maybe a Facebook group where you're just kind of reading or posting questions.
You said it way more eloquently than I did.
Well, no, I'm thinking about, like, if folks are to, well, I'm part of Keystroke Medium. Does that mean am I getting that, what I'm talking about here? And I absolutely think Keystroke, like, the awesome thing about a group like Keystroke is I feel like you can ask questions and you have a broad group of people who are invested in helping people. But if you're looking for the kind of thing like this accountability group, I think that's having that core group that you really know what they're doing. It's like you are a little mini organization, who's working to help each other.
Groups like Keystroke, groups like 20 Books, where, they're getting beyond the core net. So basically, who has access to the other people? Keystroke becomes like a hub. It becomes like the trunk that all the branches potentially can go after. So it's the type of place where, you can ask questions, find general information. You can also find like-minded people within there and go create a new branch where you can have that now secondary core group and Keystroke's where you found it from. Like, that's sort of like the type of,
Absolutely. Yeah. And there was one other, and I guess I don't want to lose, because someone might be thinking, like, okay, I work a day job. I have, like, say I'm like it'd be like starting a business, right? Like, one of the things about writing, like, people don't often want to spend money on writing, or at least, I guess, the process of creating books. I have $500 a month to spend, and I want to be better. Like, what's a good way to vet or look at things like this? And I'll find the link as well. Like, David Farland has a good group that I actually had looked at. It's only like $200 a year. And he pairs you up with like a cohort of people that you then work together with. And like Joe Solari kind of does the same thing with his author business program, where he pairs you up with a cohort, and you can ask questions inside the Facebook group and things like that. And is that valuable? Like, I don't want to just outright, and I know other people have, like Smarter Artists had a thing where you could pay a certain amount and be part of a group that would then be working together. I haven't necessarily done those groups. I can't say they're good or bad. I think there's something to said when somebody, it can work both ways. Like if I have money and I just throw $500 a month at something and that makes me feel good about it. Like, well, okay, did it really, like, yes, you're part of that group unless you're getting information, but are you really struggling to kind of earn that information, I guess. But that might lead to the thing you're looking for, because you found yourself in a group of people that were both, they put enough skin in the game to spend that money. And now you might actually spin those people off into your own group, right? And so that could be very valuable. So I don't want to outright say, like, if somebody wants to charge for a mastermind group, don't do it. But I think all the things we've been talking about, if you want it enough, you can start that kind of group on your own. Just make sure that it's not the blind leading the blind. Like, I don't want to be mean about it, but you've got people where, yeah, at least somebody kind of knows where we're going, or we were open-minded enough to look, to find the information we need and then share it with other people and then iterate based on that. And so that's why one of these groups where you pay can be helpful, I think. Just make sure that whoever that guru is really has accomplished what you're trying to accomplish. One thing about like other groups out there is if they're really focused on, say, traditional publishing or, things of that nature, like if that's not where you want to be, I would not pay money to be part of that group, because those are not people that are trying to do the things that you want to do, or maybe they're hybrid, or it's just really like you might get into a group and say, like, yeah, I've been thinking about like self-publishing this and trying to, get this through an agent. And as soon as you start talking about different things like that, if people just shut you down and tell you, no, that's not the way you should do it, that's not gonna be the group for me. I really I think the hybrid path is the best, or even the self-publishing path. You're going to make more money. I've got a family to support. So, right. So I don't know. I just wanted to be clear about that. Like, I'm not saying those things are terrible. And if you have invested money in something like that, I don't want you to feel bad about it. Just be really clear. Like, when you're buying something, you should be getting something for that. And so all the stuff we've talked about, I think, and they should also be open to answering your questions about it. Like, hey, I want to learn X, Y, and Z, and I want to get this, and this out of the group. Like, if you really want to be accountable to yourself and learn techniques to be accountable, and they don't offer that, then, you can get that for free in other places. So there are plenty of Facebook groups that do author accountability. So.
Yeah. And also another important thing is it's okay to say this group isn't working for me, and to leave. Yes. Like, for me, like, that is like probably one of the hard things for me is, okay, I'm a part of this group now, and gosh, I'm sorry. And then, like, I never leave. it just sort of like goes in the background because I feel so bad for leaving. But I shouldn't if it's not, giving me what I need. And then also, then I feel bad if I really enjoy being a part of the group, but then my life is like flipped upside down and I can't be there to the committed time. That's okay too. It's okay. I wanted to make sure that got put in there. Is it's okay to back away from a group that's not working, and it's okay to not always be involved in a group that you do enjoy, because life.
I mean, this is a marathon, right? Not a sprint. So I think having people that understand that and is very important. So I don't know. Do we have any more questions, or I want to make sure I got everything.
If you're in the chat, you have a question, go ahead and pop it in. The last question on our list was about the paid groups and how to, are they worth it, how to vet it. But I think we covered that. Part of it, the good thing about a paid group is people are sacrificing to be in it. So that the other people there are serious about this, and they're not just they're on a lark. So that's good, but to keep in mind what your goals are as an author, and if this group can help you meet those goals or not. They're separate goals.
There is definitely an industry of people who sell things to folks that have more money than interest. I don't know. I've been to those conferences. I've been like, it helps someone feel good. Like, I'm a writer because I spent $200 on this thing a month. But what makes you a writer is writing, right? So yes. That's a lot of rights. But so I would just be careful of that. I think in general, yes, if somebody's willing to invest and do that, but then also look at, are they doing the work? And it can be a good place to find those people to spin out into something smaller.
That's a really smart, prudent point, James. Thank you for saying it.
Well, there's a whole industry around this, like it's one of those things when you start, I don't know, it's a definite income source for some writers. They will spin off these these groups and charge people. And because I haven't taken part in them, I can't say if they're good or bad. I just felt like it was not for me. So it might be good for someone else. So I much rather, and I feel incredibly fortunate to have found the group that I have. And I think if you're looking for a group, just don't be afraid to talk to people. Like, hey, I'm interested in forming a group. Like, what do you recommend? Or even approaching folks that you think are kind of on the same wavelength as you, or maybe notches on the career. I mean, I hesitate to say like they're a more successful author than you, because if there's anything I've learned about this like career, it's that success one day does not equal success tomorrow. So look at a person, people who are on the same wavelength, who enjoy writing. I think that's a big part of it too. Like, you have to really enjoy it. If it's a drudgery for someone, like, that's a negative energy that you don't necessarily need in your life. But just start talking to, like, again, if you're not an introvert, and in a way, like, if you're an introvert and you feel like it's difficult for you, like, enlist one other person who is an extrovert, and then have them help you. And that's kind of what when we were joining this group, I started talking to a couple other people, and in a way it sort of helps kind of vet, like, James isn't just a crazy person who's approaching people trying to ask them to start this group, right? I've got, well, so-and-so is interested and so-and-so is interested. What do you think? And then that kind of brings more people into, oh yeah, okay, James isn't crazy, so I'll want to spend time doing this. And then trying to be professional about it as well. Like, I did kind of back off on a lot of the, I come from a fairly rigid sort of project management background. And so I can talk all the talk about, this is how we're going to do it. This is this is our goals, our outcomes, this is our process. And at least that sort of made it look like I think I was serious about what I was wanting to do. It wasn't like, yeah, we'll just show up and talk about stuff and it'll be fine. Like, no, I want to accomplish things. This group is to help do that. Are you in, and also kind of gives people a sense of who I am, I suppose. But then we backed off on a lot of that, and it's become less formal as time has gone on, which I think is fine,
Well, Jeff has a burning question. What do you do if you want to keep the group but get rid of the group leader?
You make sure the group does not actually have a leader, and then
there you go. Leaderless.
No,
I'm pretty sure it was a joke.
Start a toga party. I know. Well, I think one other thing. So I've always was really concerned, because I've been in groups where you got these weird, like, I was in a group where two writers did not like each other, and they started writing stories that were like weird side things, like digging at the other writer. And if you weren't aware of it, you'd have been like, yeah, I wasn't even aware that happened. And then somehow they were like their conflict just sort of infected the whole group. And it was so weird, but I think it's so important to have folks that can, like, or be aware of, like, in a way, you got to look out for yourself. Like, what are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? Like, I'm not there to help so-and-so feel better about their writing. If, like, to a certain point, yes, I'm going to do that. But if it goes on for months, or not be afraid to be able to talk about it. Because this was like in a big explosion in that group, and it kind of destroyed it in a way, which is unfortunate. But personalities can definitely, like, that's where you get to the fit, and I guess I've been like that group. I had to ask other people to leave, and I also think that kind of wrecks it in a way. So it's so important to get people on the same wavelength. It can be really hard if that, or at least find a way to address conflict in a positive way. And if it's folks that can't, I know, I'm trying to like make this useful. Just because if you can't address conflict, A, you're not being an adult, right? And B, like, we want the group to continue. We want it to be helpful. And it's just important to be able to do that. And maybe you do have to have some conversations offline to
private conversations with that person. Yeah.
Because that is one thing that Zoom isn't too good at sometimes, especially if you've got that group dynamic. So, but don't be afraid to do that. Like, talk. I think we forget, like, have a phone conversation. It's not, if you don't like talking on the phone, that's cool. But like, whatever way works for you.
Phones are a thing.
Yeah. But again, I think it comes back to that shared vulnerability. Like, I am willing to be vulnerable because I want to help other people succeed, and it helps me succeed, so. And Jeff, I totally know you were kidding. So.
And I was just, that's what I was going to click on. I really like this question that John Evans is posing, because for people out there who are just starting to figure out really that they can go to find these tight-knit groups, which have you found most useful? Marketing advice, writing advice, or things like word sprints? Because there's so much going on in the writing and authorly world that sometimes people just they stall because they're just drowning in so much information. So
well, I think
what would
that's
you find?
Like, at least the group I'm in right now, like, we have a pretty broad range of kind of needs, I guess. Like, we're all sort of hybrid in one way or another. So for me personally, like, word sprints are the most helpful. Like, accountability is the most helpful because I don't have to worry as much about the marketing. In fact, that's not my task right now with the stuff I'm producing. So, but then other people, marketing is incredibly useful. Like, that's what they're figuring out. And so sharing that information has been like, sharing it in like a really granular way has been really helpful for them. So I think that's going to be, pretty personal. Like, I'm just all about trying to produce work right now. And then I'll try and, like, I kind of depend on other people to market it. And then I know there will be a time when I do have to do that and I want to be in that place. And I guess what was the other question? The craft stuff. Like, I'll say craft is one thing that actually we don't get into. If like a specific question comes up or specific, like talking about a book or what worked or didn't work. And some people have posted like, hey, would you mind reading this and give me some feedback? But I would say, I guess we're on the same wavelength. I guess just based on 20 books, like I've seen so many craft discussions just completely explode and destroy threads in 20 books that that's one reason 20 books just won't even discuss craft, because so many people are so, they get so prescriptive about it, and they don't, when you're in the marketing question comes into it because we're focused on serving an audience and serving specific readers. Like, I guess the craft question is more sort of, technical for us. Like, we want to write quality prose that's going to serve an audience. We're not trying to get an MFA. So that's not what we're about right now. But so I don't know, I guess it depends on, like, if you're early in your career and you're really not feeling comfortable with that, it could be very useful, but I think that can also eat a lot of time. And I've just seen, like, the previous group I was in when I first started, was very kind of focused on craft, and they would point out stuff where, like, voice was getting in the way, or your grammar needs issues here, or it's not reading very smoothly to me. And for those writers, that was helpful. But I think it can also be debilitating. So sometimes you'll, like, depending on the group, if you end up writing just to serve that critique, whoever gives the meanest critiques will be the one that tends to, people want to write to please that person. But critiquing is also not something that this kind of group, we don't do that. So I don't find it, we just don't do it.
Lisa says the resources channel is a great place to drop book or article recommendations regarding craft.
Yep, absolutely.
And Jeff says craft is tricky because so many people have opinions on what is good craft. Indies don't like talking about it. Yeah.
It's a tough subject.
And that's where it is. And everybody's in a different place, and everybody's kind of, so I'm not going to say it's not, we definitely do talk about it. And if you have a group, I think you should just kind of make sure everybody is maybe on the same wavelength. If you've got what gets difficult is if you've got a person who's really just like, you suck unless you do it this way, or, John Gardner said to do it this way, so you suck. You're using too many Anglo-Saxon words. Use more Anglo-Saxon. Oh, you got to read John Gardner, like the Art of Writing, or no, what is that book? I don't know. Basically, he has a whole spiel.
Right.
He has a whole spiel about how Latin words are weak and Saxon words are strong. So you should use more words of an Anglo-Saxon derivation as opposed to weak Latin words. I mean, there's like a whole, like, I don't know, that's my favorite one of just like why, you can be bad. But it's, I think as long as people are like positive about it and trying to help people get better, don't be mean. That's really, I've been in some critiques, craft critiques especially, where people are just, you feel like they're just being mean for no reason. And then, I don't know. So, but yeah, John, I hope that,
as they say, don't be a big deal.
Yeah, but I think the group serves different purposes to different people depending on what you want to set up. And I think if we're all working to improve each other, obviously if someone is having an issue with craft, that can be a very difficult conversation to have. But for me personally, like I want to get that feedback. Like if something I'm doing is not working, and quite honestly, I often feel like I'm getting stuck in ruts, or I've been writing the same kind of thing for a while now, 3-4 books in, and I'm maybe getting like certain constructions or certain ways of whatever, the way I'm telling the story. it doesn't hurt me to hear that. And it helps if I hear it before it gets to an editor, because that saves me some time. So we just don't do it in like a structured way where like every week we're reading each other's work, and giving feedback on it and da-da-da-da-da.
That would be a different type of mastermind group.
That would be more of a critique group, which I guess is another kind of discussion, but I don't know how actually useful they are. That's one reason I really like the format of the mastermind or the shared, author group.
Yeah, figure out what your goals are and find a group that can help you meet those specifically.
Yep.
I like it. That's good for life too.
Yeah, totally. I mean, once somebody started, like, because I've been members of like small business groups like this, and once somebody explained it to me, I was like, oh yeah, that's just like, Kiwanis kind of, except we're not doing public service. So, but we are definitely helping each other with our businesses.
Yeah. Well, that's all the questions I have.
Well, we are a little bit, we are a little bit over, but we wanted to hit everything and make sure everyone's questions were answered. And you did a fantastic job. I just basically had to sit here and then, talk every now and then so people didn't forget we existed. And
I haven't been able to talk to my group.
Awesome.
For like
Answered
2
all the
weeks,
questions.
so.
You didn't even have to.
I'm just talking. I'm
So I
talking.
was just
way
going
too
down
much.
our list of questions, and no, you did great. You answered all the questions that we had. I'm just like, I don't have to ask it. He's already talking about it. Cool, awesome, sweet-tastic. Go through that. Yep. And with that, I did put. Josh sent the Discord link, Lauren. I put it in our little doc thingy that we have, because I can't post it in the chat. Only you can do that.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, put it right there. Yeah, so we'll post that, and I'll also have that in the show notes afterwards, both in the YouTubiness and on the Podbeaniness for the. Anyway, God, all my words are dying. Thank you, James, for joining us and letting us just pick your brain and hear all the things. And yeah, I definitely agree. These mastermind groups can be a huge help, especially sometimes maybe even for those out there, you don't know what your goals are. Finding like-minded people can also help you discover what it is that you're really looking for, what you're really, reaching towards. And then that can then help you, better go through the gruff of finding such a group of like-minded individuals.
Well, I think if you're ready to take it to the next level, it's really the best way to do it. So.
All right. And with that, join us in the Keystroke Facebook group. Join us on our Discord, which is really quiet because, there's so many things going on, but it's there. I'm trying to be better about groupifying and chattingness. I'm not good with it, but I'm trying. All right. For Lauren Moore, I'm Kalene Williams. Before I ramble anymore, thank you for joining us on this early writer's journey. Be sure to check us out next week, where we're going to talk about more reading, writing, and everything in between right here on Keystroke Mediums, The Writer's Journey.